The most controversial topic is going to be discussed today here at Modified Weather Watch. That is stratospheric aerosol injections, or as the conspiracy theorists like to call it, chemtrails, or as what we've been told by our government officials and those that want to keep a tap on information. These are called persistent contrails that don't disappear, and it's totally normal. So we're going to go into this video, dissect all of this stuff, how it's carried out, and seeing is believing with these things. And I think a lot of you guys are going to be shocked by what I have to show. All of this data in terms of the videos is all of my data I've compiled here, aside from the satellite. Obviously, I don't have my own weather satellite. That'd be cool though. But all the images here are footage. It's footage that I've captured. And let's go from there, guys. And I'm going to start off this video with something very important, okay? We need to look at how we got to this point. You know, why is this going on with our skies? And why don't people believe this is going on? Well, I think the easiest answer to this starts with how much time as a population we spend outdoors. And look this up on Google. Just Google how much time does the average adult spend outside, and you'll get some pretty shocking information on this. Women are more likely to spend 30 minutes or less outside each day than men. People aged 18 to 24, I'm 25 years old, so just around this age group, they spend 30 minutes or less outside each day than the rest of the population. That is absolutely disturbing to me, that we're becoming this out of touch with our outside and our surroundings, that we're spending less than 30 minutes a day outside, guys. That's really depressing to hear that information. Over 60% of adults report spending 5 hours or less outside in nature each week. Guys, that's less than 5 hours outside each week. So how do you guys know what the sky looks like? That's what gets me. We don't know how skies are supposed to look because we spend 95% of our lives indoors. In the easy way to ask what's gone wrong here, how much time did our grandparents spend outside? How much more time did older generations be more involved with their outside and their surroundings, whether it's construction and farming and agriculture? Now, industrialization, of course, has helped mitigate some of the time spent outdoors just because of machines becoming more efficient. But this is a huge equation to the problem, guys, is the average person every day, they're not spending time outside. They're not looking up at the sky. They're too busy in their own business, their own job, whatever they're doing, and it's not involved with being outside. Now, that's not your fault. That's not really anyone's fault. It's just a product or an effect of what happens here, where people become desensitized and they lose touch with their surroundings, with what's going on around them. And to be told that these are persistent contrails that just stick around, I mean, that's a mass psychosis response that general population has been trained to accept. Okay, this has been regurgitated for years, guys. These are just normal airplanes and contrails that just linger a trail behind them when they release their payload, and that it's a certain area that this airplane flies where the air is more saturated, so that's why you see the contrail in certain spots over other places. That is the furthest possible from the truth. That's an answer that's been regurgitated by people that do this kind of stuff to our skies, and it's a really easy answer to get away with. That's the predisposed mass psychosis response to this, is that, oh, it's normal. It's alarmingly disturbing, and it's already upsetting in of itself that I have to waste nearly 5 minutes explaining this. So that's really the last you'll hear from me of kind of calling out people that don't want to see this or are receptive to this, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, how much time are you spending outside? How much are you really aware of your surroundings? And have you really even looked into these things, or are you just repeating what you've been told? And that's virtue right there. And that's just not it at all. So I highly encourage you guys to watch the 3-minute teaser video I made. That's all footage I compiled again of these chemtrails and these stratospheric aerosol injections. Let's go ahead and play this video. This was recorded really about a month ago. I don't know exactly when, but we're looking at this trail up here, and look how it intersects these waves, wave-like ripples in the sky. This is microwaving going on. Let me go ahead and rewind this a little bit. Right here with this here, this is microwaving going on. We have microwaves. We see some going in this direction, roughly about, I'd say, maybe 85 degrees here. And then we have some going off in this direction. And then here is a trail that has been laid out here, and we can see there is microwaving that's going on, that's pulsed through this chemtrail here. Now, the scientific name for these, they're called stratospheric aerosol injections, where you're injecting particulates into the stratosphere or the upper troposphere, or the tropopause, which is the layer that separates between the troposphere where weather occurs and the stratosphere, where we don't typically have weather occur up there, but you can see some clouds that can occur up into the stratosphere. Those are very high level clouds. So I don't want to belabor too much of this video here. You get the point with this. Here's a still frame I got out of it. Again, you can see these clouds here are wave-like. They're rippled because there are excitation frequencies and pulses being passed through these, with the sprinkle on top that we have a stratospheric aerosol injection starting right here, and it goes all the way off to the end of the screen here. And if we want to get a close visual of what these look like, what these aerosol injections look like, this was on a plane. I recorded this. I believe this was on September 11th. I was flying from Indianapolis into Atlanta, and I believe at this time there was just a lot of a stalled frontal system across the deep south, and so this is kind of the outskirts of that, kind of the boundary of the outside. And this is what this layering looks like. So we're flying right up where they put these things down here, and you can see there's an arc to this. It arcs, and it looks wave-like, like rippling in a ripple-like pattern. And this just goes on and on. Now, it's easier to see this when I speed this stuff up, especially at the very beginning of this video. You can see that this does have curvature to it, like it's a wave. The crest is bowing downwards closest to the plane wing here, and then it kind of curves back up right here. And then here comes, again, here's the next layering of it here. We're flying right underneath this thing. This is what these things look like. You can see off into the distance where this injection started, and then as we pass right underneath it there, that goes away. Look at these here again. Here's the next wave of these injections as well. And that is that. Now, this is what it looks like from the ground. Now, this trail here is not the same trail you're seeing on this plane video. These have no correlation to each other. I'm just trying to get you guys visually to see that when you're flying up at an airplane right underneath these injections, this is what these things look like up here. And these look milky. They already have some sort of attraction to them. You can see it. They're streamlining, going this way. And again, as I said, underneath it, this is what these trails look like on this image to the right. And notice, again, you can see that this injection does start at a random point here in the sky. It starts right here. It's when they turned this payload on, and then this thing comes this way, and it just all hell breaks loose, and they just inject the atmosphere with this. Here's another look at it. This is getting closer into the system itself, where we can see, again, these turn into microwaving bands. You can see these finger-like ripples. I like to call them fish gills This is microwaving up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is what happens, I'd say, anywhere roughly between about an hour to as much as 6 hours after some of these trails are laid down. You put down some of these excitation pulses and frequencies that these particulates are already present in the atmosphere, and then they start to form these types of structures. You can see rippling and wave-like patterns with this. I'll play this one more time. We're looking in particular across this area in here. I wonder if I can draw over this while this plays, and we can. Look at that. So we're looking at these in here. That this is the rippling, these fingers, fish gills. Looks like microwaving, because it is microwaving. That's what you guys are seeing here. Here's another case of microwaving. Looking at this in the distance, again, you see these pulsations here, these ripples. This is indicative of some kind of frequency or wavelength passing through a medium, and that's what you're seeing in turn is through the water vapor. You see rippling. That's all clouds are, guys. They're water vapor. It's just water. We're looking at water in the sky, and if you see wave-like patterns like this, it's a dead giveaway. Something is being phased through that, pulsed through that as well. So that's what this looks like through here. I wonder how far I go out with this here. Let's get another look at this. It's just that component I do with that there. So that's the microwaving. Again, here's what it looks like from the ground. This case here, this was on April 8th on the eclipse. So this was the morning of the eclipse, guys. They went crazy with this spraying. This is an intricate web-like pattern. And you can see some of these are laid more fresh in time. Obviously, you can see that this one here is laid probably about 10 minutes ago. And then here's another example. This trail here is probably laid about 30 minutes ago. And then this wider trail here, this one in here, probably laid about an hour or two ago. And what these do is they don't disperse. They leave a thin white film in the sky. And if that's going to occur, guys, this is going to modify your surface, how much sunlight is reaching the surface. It's going to have a slight impact on this. Had these clouds not been here, the Earth's surface is going to absorb more sunlight than if these are not here. So these do already have modification intense to them, despite the fact that these aren't even really fulfilling their purpose yet of being pulsed. These are just webbed out right now, but this is already going to modify your solar radiational input here. So at this point now, we're going to start to transition into satellite imagery. And this is very shocking stuff, guys. And I want you to keep, again, two things at the back of your mind before I get into this. One, again, how much time are you spending outside? How aware of you are your surroundings? And are you just taking word of mouth by what you've been told? And two, pay attention to all these trails that are laid down and think to yourself, is it possible to have this many passenger jets? So if these are all just passenger jets doing this, there are really this many jets out there in any given morning, guys. I don't think that's going to be the case here with the extent that some of these are carried out at. So the way that these are implemented, it's 3 steps. I'm going to keep this very simple because I do not want to complicate this. The payload in which these airplanes drop down the product are at set points. They need to be released at one point, and then they need to be stopped at another point at one set area into the sky. A lot of these are satellite operated by UAVs. These are unmanned aerial vessels. So these have nobody in them. They're satellite controlled, and it runs like it's a program. You have a program that is input based on what's going on with your current conditions in the atmosphere. And based on that, that's how they need to know in a grid-like pattern where we need to spray. So, for example, they could go and put down a trail that extends 50 miles into eastern Ohio, and that needs to fulfill a certain purpose. And that's what would be done at a set time, set location, and that's where it is sprayed down. Now, an easy way to masquerade a lot of their operations with this is that these are... they look like normal passenger jets. If you look at some of these airplanes, which I've done, guys, they will say they're Southwest Airlines, but these airplanes are faked routes. They'll say an airplane is flying from Phoenix to LA or Indianapolis to St. Louis, and this plane is flying at 35,000 feet. And with binocular visuals, guys, I've had cases where these planes are not flying at the lengths they say or the altitudes they say they're flying at. So there's another layering to this, that some of these are commercial jets that are kind of masqueraded in here, and these aren't housing any people on them. They're just these recycled commercial jets that would make you think that these are normal jets that are in the sky. And it's really easy to do that. You just calibrate this plane. It could be a Southwest Airlines airplane. You calibrate it like it's a normal plane tracker, and it gets hooked into that flight tracker database, and it's the perfect right out into the open. You wouldn't think anything else of it. That's how these things are being carried out and done, guys. And there's other cases where you'll see two planes flying at the same altitude in the sky. One of these planes is dispersing particulates that do not disperse, while the other one's not. And this doesn't take a whole lot of critical thinking skills to understand that that's simply because one of these planes is releasing a type of payload that is different from a normal commercial jet that does not have any of these particulates in them. Okay, that's the first component with this. The second one is, in order for this to be excited, this is all done through S-banding. It's a channel for microwaving at frequencies of 2 to 4 gigahertz. So S-banding, everything that's done on your S-band is used for your satellite communications, your weather radar, your air traffic control, and even your internet and your 5G uses S-banding. So what concerns me, guys, is I do think there can be some 5G components with this 5th generation internet, with the micro scale implementation of all these areas, that they can get an even more detailed micro level manipulation of the weather. So the purpose for a lot of this stuff is, yes, these things do give us internet, high-speed internet, but at the same time, these are also more powerful vectors that can be used for getting smaller scale detailed weather manipulation going on. So there's a far more nefarious purpose that's also going on with these simultaneously as we get more advanced with our technology, okay? Now, what is in these injections? I think that's the most important part to understand. How are these able to persist in the sky for so long? The elements that are dispersed within these jets payload, it's aluminum, it's barium, strontium, carbon, and that entails carbon black dust or graphene. All graphene is, it's like a honeycomb grid of carbon together. And what these do is, anywhere from your graphene, your carbon black dust, all these elements, these metals that are sprayed into the sky, this condensation nuclei, this orange dot, that is your metal. And then the water vapor that's already up into the sky is going to cling on to those. So these water molecules are going to stick onto whatever is being sprayed up here, whether it's, again, aluminum, barium, strontium, carbon black dust, graphene. That's going to stick to these. That gives you the contrail that's staying there persistent. And then HAARP is going to use your extremely low frequencies to ionize these channels and cause your forcing, okay? It's also done in conjunction with the NexRad radar network across the United States. This is all operating on a network exactly like the electric grid, guys. It's exactly like that. That's how these things are being able to be carried out. That's it. It's those 3 steps. You release a payload at a certain area in the sky at a certain time, and then you are going to excite those through excitation frequencies. Once that's achieved, then you start to get these to mass form and pulsate and be manipulated in any fashion that you want to. And again, just so you know, I'm not talking bogus, guys. This is exactly what these things are. This is S-banding of 2 to 4 gigahertz. Everything that's used in this frequency is weather radar, surface ship radar, your communication satellites, and look at this. Microwave ovens and your microwaves operate at these frequencies, guys. Radio astronomy, mobile phones, wireless LAN, Bluetooth, your GPS, and some radios use this as well. Here's the NEXRAD. Here's what NEXRAD radar looks like. Again, the next generation of this was pulled out in 1988, which is also conveniently when HAARP was starting to get going. The patents for HAARP started in 1987. HAARP wasn't functional until 1993. So all this is relative with time in each other, how these things were released. And you can see this is how much power this is expelling to the atmosphere, or ejecting the atmosphere. It's 2,700 to 3,000 megahertz, guys. These are very powerful with bandwidth of 2.7 gigahertz, with a beam width of up to 3 gigahertz. So these are very powerful in terms of their capabilities. And that's what they're doing here. So you find your excitation frequency, and that's simply your frequency that you're used to calculate your periodic vibrations in your elements here. And then that's how you're able to get these things to move. So you figure out that frequency, you pulse it with that, and then that's how you get the mass formation for these things to move. And generating extremely low frequencies in the 0.1 hertz range that are impossible to produce in any other way. So the technologies that HAARP do are intricately unique, guys. They're extremely unique to these set functions. And HAARP has other ties to heating up as ionospheric heaters in the very upper levels of what's called our Von Allen belt, which resides 40 to 400 kilometers outside our Earth's atmosphere. So this is way upper level manipulation as well. This goes on at multiple levels of the atmosphere. It's not just at one certain level or specific level per se. Another thing I want to cite is this quote from a research paper, a military paper from 1996. It's Owning the Weather in 2025 as a force. This particular quote is, if clouds were seeded using a chemical nuclei, which is what we're seeing today, before their downwind arrival to a desired location, the result could be suppression of precipitation. So I want you guys to think, areas that have droughts, you can create droughts, you can create these conflicts, and you can manufacture climate crises, mask these as climate change, scare people into thinking that we're so deadly and we're causing mass problems on this planet that you need to give away all your freedoms. That's seriously basically what's going on with this stuff is you create crises after crises. It puts people in situations of turmoil and distress because they have just been so screwed around with, and they do this with hurricanes. They do this to create droughts. They do this with severe weather, with hail and tornadoes. They do all of this to continue to break you down and traumatize you. This is a method that they use with this to get you guys normalized with this. Finally, let's get into the meat and potatoes, the fun stuff with this, the shocking stuff about what this looks like aerially from a satellite. This is our stratospheric aerosol injection map number 1. I have outlined in red our bird's eye view of the area that we're going to be investigating. So that way, we're all kind of on the same page. Some of you guys out there may not be as familiar with satellites. So again, it's important that I do my best here to kind of hold your hand and help show you guys some of these things, because I don't want anyone to be confused with this stuff. So as always, I tried my best to breach kind of that nomenclature, kind of the jargon of meteorology to the everyday people here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to loop this. This is looking at statewide Kentucky. Let me go back again. Again, this is main area, or what we're watching is across Kentucky. And this is on late morning of October 23rd. You're going to see a lot of chemtrails just break out through here across the Indiana and the Kentucky border. And then these go all the way across central Kentucky. I'll just loop this a couple of times so we can watch this. Take a look at what's going on really statewide across all of Kentucky. You can see that there are solenoids, grid-like patterns, set intersection points of some of these chemtrails. They persist for hundreds, tens of miles. They don't disperse. And so these covering the sky are going to have some of an influence on our net radiational budget, how much sunlight is reaching the surface of the Earth. It is going to impact that. These are so pronounced and so widespread that it is causing its own environment of cloud cover. So one more time, I'll loop this. Let's take a look at what's going on here. You can see these all break out into the early afternoon on October 23rd. Now let's kind of get into some of the frame-by-frame analysis of this. And we can already see very early on, we have some trails already starting across the border. The first one is right here. Let me get my pen out. So this first one occurs right here. We already see these ones developing right through here. There's one right here as well. And as you run this frame by frame, here's that larger trail. We see more of these breakout. I haven't labeled all these trails, but there are so many of them, guys. There's one here. There's one right here. There's more starting to develop here and here. And then I want us to watch these beads, because there's a yellow arrow, I think a blue and a yellow, blue, and a red arrow here. You can track distinct points, distinct clouds that are long track clouds that move from this point all the way over to this point. And the distance with this, guys, this is over 150 miles. So we can track one cloud that doesn't disperse, and it moves 150 miles plus. So here's the orange one, here's the yellow one. The yellow one's the easiest one to find, and here's the blue one. And let's just track these across the entire screen. These clouds do not go away. Can rewind it. You see that they're deductible. You can pick them out. They develop early on here, and they continue right across the page. And these are important because what you're looking at here is a wave packet. This is a pulsation of energy, and the chemtrails are sprayed in accordance to this wave packet. So this has a function of covering a certain area, and it moves in unison with this wave packet. These arrows I'm pointing at, guys. This is the wave packet, the pulse of energy that moves through here. And then the next outlines I have in red, this is how extensive these trails are. These extend for hundreds of miles. The most severe prominent trails are the ones in red here. I'll go before it. Here's where I label it, and after it. Look at how long this trail is. And then look at the northern one and northeastern one across southern Ohio. This is another trail that is pre-laid right here. It's pre-laid out in front of the wave packet, and this wave packet moves along this pre-laid trail. So there's a component of magnetization to this and excitation pulses. Again, watch this. These arrows, they move right over where this trail was laid, guys. The last thing I want to show with this particular case is let's play a game. Let's pick out one particular trail, and I'm going to do it with this one here. And watch how long we can track this thing. Goes on and on and on. So the last time I could not pick it out, we're all the way up here. So we start from here to here of just a persistent trail. And what that does is as that trail moves from point A over here, point A to point B, this is covering all of this area. This is being sprayed. This is all being seeded. It's being sprayed with whatever element they wanted to put up there, whether that's, again, the aluminum, strontium, barium, you name it there. Another case, let's take a look at this yellow, the yellow contrail. Look at how early this one pops out. So we're looking at this one in particular right here. Pops out across about I'd say, the Evansville area of Indiana, and look at how extensive this one is. And you can track this one that becomes in conjunction with these three purple ones that intersect this yellow one at a set point, and this travels across all of Kentucky, and you can pick this out. You can point these out. The last thing I want to point out is these are intersecting in what look like asterisks. So look at this red box. Let's zoom in. This catches me in particular, guys, across Kentucky. Is this right here? We have an intersection point here, here, and here. And you'll notice that this asterisk-looking thing is going to move this way, and you can track it. So here it is right here. Here it is again right here. This is the most pronounced seeding going on is through here, where you can see that this is a calculated web. These are not arbitrary jets that are just passengers that happen to be passing through this area. No, these are measured. These are intricate measures, and you can see that with this here. Let me go ahead and erase this so I can get my clutter out of here, and we can look at this without all my garbage on it. So frame by frame, we can pick out this same structure of this thing moving. It starts right back here, develops. Here's the center point. Here's the center point. Here's the center point. And then I stop the framing with that for right now. This was just a simple look at the satellite imagery. This next one's looking at nighttime microphysics. It helps look at layering of the clouds. And my only point with this is I'm trying to show you guys what we need to look out for is this area in particular right here. This is the wave packet. I'm trying to get you guys to see how these behave similar. You shoot this pulse through, and here it is. It's right here. This is your wave packet. It's an excitation frequency, and then along that wave packet, you can still see where the seeding is occurring on this. It's so pronounced that it is showing up on a different layering here. This is, again, called nighttime microphysics, but you can see the seeding. It even shows up in here. It's most pronounced in here. You can see the seeding going on across western Kentucky. Guys, if you're still skeptical on some of this, just wait. It's going to get far worse. Here's a look at mid-level water vapor. Again, here is the wave packet traversing. Here is the attached seeding that is following this wave packet, this pulsation. You can see a lot of it as well across southern Illinois here. Again, here it is, most pronounced right here across central Kentucky. And for other visualization purposes, this is what it's like. It's a pulsation frequency here. And let's get into now our second case, our SAI map number 2. We're looking at the upper Great Lakes with a main focus on Michigan, Wisconsin, northern Indiana. I want us to look at that spot the most in particular. This is, again, looking at the nighttime microphysics. I'm just going to loop this and let you guys watch this a couple of times. It's absolutely horrific stuff. One thing I'll say with this too is we're coming up on sunrise, and I did that on purpose because you switch from nighttime microphysics to just normal daytime satellite. And in doing so, you can see real easy contrast of all these trails right at sunrise over the lake here across Michigan. If you live in Michigan on the morning of October 22nd, you got absolutely decimated with these stratospheric aerosol injections. Absolutely blanketed in them. Same with Chicago, over portions of eastern Wisconsin, northwest Ohio, northern Indiana. They went crazy with this, and this is the piece of the component I want to remind you guys. Our commercial jets, are there this many commercial jets in one area over one particular point in time? In 1 hour, do we have this many commercial jets flying over not a very densely populated area? Michigan's not horribly dense in population, but if we were to see passenger jets, we would see something like a persistent area of an airfield, something like Detroit to Chicago. We should see a lot of aerosols sticking like this, or maybe we're flying from Detroit to Green Bay, so we should see aerosols that look like this. You should see airstrips, guys. A lot of commercial jets, they follow certain airstrips to optimize space and time to get through in a certain area in the atmosphere, or anywhere else. Pick a different point. You could see, I don't know, from Chicago to Columbus, we don't see any airfield traffic really exposed through there, so we don't see areas where these are more concentrated. It's all just a webbed-like pattern that occurs with this. So let's go ahead and play that again, and you'll see we don't have that. That's not here. We don't see tendencies where planes should be flying if these are passenger jets, which they're not. So that's another indication here. Again, using a little bit of some critical thinking and reasoning here with this, that we're not dealing with just simply commercial jets of this nature. So I'll play this one more time. Then let me go ahead and get this to a certain point, because there's another piece I want to talk about with this. Notice as we go forward with time towards the end of this loop, especially across eastern Michigan and into Ontario, notice how these start to form into eastern Michigan, right over Lake Huron and Lake Erie. These trails are seeding pattern. These start to form lines, guys. This starts to form linear clouds. So if I pause it right here, take a look at this. We have lines of clouds here. And simply put, how these are occurring is these are being pulsed this way. And if you think of it, these are like waves. It's like this. Each crest of your wave occurs where we see one of these lines in these clouds. And then you can see these are rippling from west to east. So these have a pulsation through them, and they're rippling from west to east. I think it's one of the most obvious giveaways here, and I'll get into more of other obvious giveaways. Here's a look at the same nighttime microphysics. Take a look at these guys. These are all your stratospheric aerosol injections, just decimated, especially across central Michigan here. I mean, this is absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific what happens. All these pop out right here. Look at all these through here. Pronounced spraying is occurring here across Chicago area, northern Indiana. Look at these guys. They don't go away. They serve a set purpose here. They're rotating, and they're helping to sequester this low pressure system that's going to be moving into the area in about 12 hours or so. So that's what's going on out ahead of this. All these sprayed trails. Here's a look again to parallel this. This is the mid-level water vapor imagery. You can see all this popping out across central Michigan. And at the end of the loop here, look at kind of northwestern Indiana, southwest Michigan, extremely pronounced through here again as well. And this stuff is just extremely disturbing to me, guys, that this continues. This is allowing to happen. Here's a look at our simple water vapor. This is just kind of combining all layers of our lower level and upper level water vapor imagery, and just a different layering, a different mask on this. In my opinion, I think it pops out the most across northern Indiana, over the Lake Michigan here. And these again, you can see them popping out and forming into central Michigan. What you guys will notice with time is, as these aerosols are laid out, with time, they start to disperse or form into this thin white film of clouds that starts to cover your skies up. Here is a in-depth, way zoomed in look at the same exact thing here. Go ahead and play this, get out of my drawing. Here comes the sunrise on the morning of October 22nd. I'm going to go ahead and just pause it here for a moment and take a look at what's going on, guys. This is not passenger jets. I think it's pretty obvious. You know, I don't know how many times I need to say that, but look at how many different seeding patterns we can see. This runs this way. It's intersected by this. We see seeding coming through here. That's intersected by all of these lines through here. There's more seeding this way. So these are all set webs. These are web-like patterns, and they're everywhere. Absolutely insane to see this, guys, and it's the crime of the century. Slowly run through this frame by frame, and we're looking at the entire state of Michigan. I'm going to ask you guys what passenger jets do this. If these were passenger jets, again, it would be pretty obvious for us to see a consistent pattern of an airfield here coming from Chicago to Detroit, but we don't see that. Or again, as I said, Detroit to Green Bay or Detroit to Madison. We don't see those. We see just a web-like pattern of all these trails being sprayed out. Here's another example. I got other ones here. This was on October 14th. We're looking at the lower Ohio Valley. A bunch of spraying is occurring across Illinois. and Missouri here. Go ahead and loop this a couple times for us. And pay attention to what's going on in central Illinois. You'll see a cloud that is linear like this with a channel passing through here, and it goes this way. And then right underneath that channel, this is where we're spraying. This is where we're hatching all of our chemtrails and our stratospheric aerosol injections. So let me go ahead and erase this. Let's watch this occur again. We're going to look right through here. Here it is across central Illinois, and you'll notice what pertains or what precedes that is our spraying of our airfield here of our chemtrails. Again, here's another look at it. Look what happens here across Kentucky. We see it. This is pulsed through Kentucky, and that these trails persist across the area. Again, one more time at this. Here's another case where we see widespread seeding occurring across Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky. More of a zoomed in look at it for you guys. I'm trying to show you, here is your ionized channel, or your channel in which your determining edge is traveling down. It's right through here. What follows is the seeding, and everything's being pulsed through this way, like that. And then everything that's following this pulse is followed by these trails that are being sprayed down. So, and take a look at how big these get here. We're talking trails that again, they extend over 100 miles long in length. They do not disperse. They leave a thin white film across the sky, and that is going to consequently impact your surface. What's going on there, how much sunlight is going to reach your surface here. Another thing I wanted to point out, I don't want to miss this. It's actually in a different overlay here. So let me go ahead and go on to a different case here. We're going to look at October 15th. Here's another wide-scale view of pulsation occurring. We're looking at the lower Ohio Valley here. I do this one very slow, frame by frame. But what I want us to look at is there's pulsation that's occurring this way. And it has a little bit of a radial component. It is spinning downwards this way. But in terms of the west-east component, you're shining frequencies through this way. Here is your boundary all the way out here across the Dakotas. It curves through this way like this. And everything is being drawn in through this way, and it's being pulsed like this. You also have some forcing occurring this way. That's bringing and shifting all of this down through here. My point being is this is not a normal synoptic setup of natural occurring weather. And here's a case of, again, looking at the same October 15th. Look at all the seeding that's going on across North Dakota and South Dakota here. This is a buffer zone that allows this boundary to be created. So let me go ahead and erase this here. It gets very messy very fast. So what you're looking at here is this boundary. The seeding in here is creating a boundary for us to have this entire apparatus occur across eastern portion of the United States here. So this is what this looks like. Again, you can see, look at this pulse through here. Here's another huge seed that comes out through here, and you see it ripples down this way. Look at all the seeding going on across South Dakota here. Again, you see these form here, dark, thick black clouds, which are some of your mid-level clouds here, which is what the seeding is as well. Let's get into our last case of microwaving and your aerosol injections. This is across the lower Ohio Valley. The outer box is in red. This is the first view we're going to look at, and then the smaller area where we're going to get more of a micro focus on some of the microwaves is going to be in this blue outline. So again, the first area we're looking at is the red outline box. The second one is going to be the blue outline. So here is the first one. And what I want us to look at is the detailing on these clouds across southern Tennessee. If we zoom in really close to these guys, you notice how these have ripples on them, spokes on them. there's cases where we have, and be very careful with drawing this out here. Okay, there's cases where we can see spokes in these clouds. They're like piano keys. They're like piano keys. We don't see the spokes north of it. That's because this air is being literally ripped apart by these frequencies coming through this way. You can see the types of the piano key features again through here. Let's take a look at eastern Tennessee. We can again see these. This is indicative of what's being pulsed through these clouds. There's a medium. There's something being passed through these clouds. And as a result, as a consequence, you see these ripples, these fish gills, piano keys, whatever you want to call it. These are not normally occurring. This is not topography that's causing these to have these rippling effects to them. I'm going to go ahead and play this again. Let me erase this. It's not just in southern Tennessee here. It occurs in Kentucky as well, depending on where you want to look at this. And then the next thing I want us to discuss is the wave packet in this case. So at the very beginning of this loop, there's two things we need to watch out for. Okay? We're going to watch out for the leading edge right here. This is your pulse. This entire level of clouds here is your pulse. These are lower level clouds. This pulse is going to traverse this way, like this, and it's going to come through central Tennessee. There is a second one that's coming from this direction, and you can see it right here. There's some giveaways and some of the shadowing of the clouds here, and it comes through this way. This upper level pulse, this northern one here, sets our boundary. So this pulse here travels to the south of this one that's shot off up through here. So this is the boundary in which the confines of this pulse is attached to. And then underneath it, we see our piano key frequencies shooting through here that look like the fish gills or those piano keys. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this real quick. Whoops. All right, here we go. I'm going to run through this very slow. Again, we're looking at southern Missouri here. As we switch to sunrise, this pulse is moving. It's right about, let me backtrack this here. Give me 1 second. This pulse moves into western Tennessee right as we hit sunrise, and it is sitting about right here. Here's where we see another channel is through here. Here's another channel right here. Here's another channel right through here. Let's go ahead and play this again. Now let's zoom in a little bit closer to this, guys. Let's take a look at this now. Same loop, except we're zoomed way in. Again, this is where we're looking at now. Now we're looking at this blue area. So this blue area here. Now we're way zoomed in into Tennessee. And before I even play this loop, look at these clouds. I mean, they're like the piano keys, the fish gills. And let me go ahead and run this frame by frame. Start off across northern Tennessee, Kentucky border, and you can take a look and see it. There are rips through these clouds because there are frequencies being passed through these clouds. You can see that they are rippled. They have ripples through them. There's waves through them. These are being microwaved, and it's a dead giveaway. That's really all I'll have to say with this, and I'll let the loop kind of do the rest of the speaking. You have your frequency that's pulsed through here, and these are attached down here like nodes. That's what you're seeing. So this is where your frequency is coming through, your packets coming through this way. And then as a result, you can see these are trailing behind like this. They trail behind that pulse. And as a consequence, as a result, that's what you're seeing, these rippling of these clouds. Very fascinating stuff, guys. Very disturbing at the same time. Equally disturbing as it is fascinating that this can be done. It's shocking to me. It is very fascinating to me. But when you realize that this is not being done for beneficial purposes, it becomes very upsetting. Here is the last case of microwaving I want to show. This is even more alarming than the case across Tennessee, where we're dealing with a pulse being passed through a medium. We're looking at the upper level Great Lakes. This is Wisconsin, Michigan. And all I want us to do is focus on Lake Superior. Here is Lake Superior. And we'll say northern Wisconsin, northern Michigan as well. This is the area we need to watch out for. And look in particular across this area through here. Do you see these ripples through here? You can see them in other places. They're just most obvious right off of Lake Superior here in Minnesota. You see some of the rippling still going on through here across Wisconsin and Michigan. This is also microwaving. You can see a pretty easy pulse through here where there's microwaving occurring as well. This is looking at mid-level, this is the lower level water vapor down here. Is pretty indicative of these microwaves. You can see them. Here's a case where we're looking at this now on satellite. So that was first looking at the water vapor, so just available water in the low levels of the atmosphere. Now we're actually looking at what the clouds look like coupled with this water vapor imagery. So here's a look at the satellite imagery. And what you'll notice, this is a grid. This is a grid of pulses here across northern Wisconsin. I want us to look across this area in particular. Look how these almost look like, in the case here across northwest Wisconsin, we're looking at northwestern Wisconsin. It looks like these are tubes. There's pulses and frequencies being shot off through here, and they're spinning like this. So this is moving from southwest to northeast like this. And it's also spinning like so. So it's spinning like that as it moves. So take a look at that. Just so, we're all on the same page with where we're looking. It's right here. Pulses shot like this. And it's also rotating. It's hard for me to kind of depict that on a 2D plane. But that's the main takeaway from this that I want us to see. You can also see up in the UP of Michigan, you can see there are some trails. There's stratospheric aerosol injections occurring right up here across the UP of Michigan, northeast Wisconsin. And then behind this, you see an entire grid of these clouds that are being pulsed. I mean, here's the whole grid. I want us to also look off towards the southeast over Lake Michigan. What you'll notice is the back edge of our channel. So the back edge of this channel has a correlation to the very bottom part of lakes messed up here, Lake Michigan, but you'll notice it rotates like this way, this way, this way, and this way, and this moves in unison with how this moves down here. So take a look at that here real quick. So what's going on down here across Lake Michigan, it's moving in unison with the activity that's occurring across Wisconsin. See how the edge of this moves in unison with the edge of this through here. So it's the edge of northwest Wisconsin is moving in unison with coverage across southern Michigan. Let's take a look at a couple more views of this. This is going a little bit further north now and looking at Lake Superior. Notice these clouds across Lake Superior do not move. There's linear tube-like clouds sitting across Lake Superior, but there are clouds that are moving through that. That's, again, indicative of a set-in-place channel where something's being passed through a medium. It's being pulsed through a medium. This is not topography influenced. People will try to make a case that, oh, well, this is just because there's a sea breeze convergence from land over sea, and what happens is it creates ebbs and flows and eddies over the ocean. If that were the case, you would see these linear clouds moving, okay? They would also move with that airflow eddy. The fact that these don't move and that these stay stationary means there's a medium that's being passed through this. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It's not going to work, guys. So here it is again. Look at these clouds across Lake Superior. They don't move. There's upper level clouds moving through them, but the low level clouds that are sitting over Lake Superior, they don't move because there's a frequency or a medium that's being pulsed through these and passing through them. And it's not just Lake Superior that we see this going on. It's across central Wisconsin at the beginning of the loop. It's southern Minnesota. We see these same microwaving occurring, the ripples of these clouds. You see it across like a conveyor belt across northern Michigan. Notice how the airfield of these clouds, it looks like a conveyor belt. These are all moving parallel. We have parallel clouds that are tightly packed like this, that all move parallel to each other. That's something that's not normal. It's a forced manipulation that you're seeing there. Here's a look again. I like showing this. This is the upper level. This is nighttime microphysics. This is a different case, actually. This is October 24th, and I just wanted to show this area in here. Look at how pronounced some of these stratospheric aerosol injections are. In particular, take a look at what's going on here out ahead across eastern Michigan. Look at some of these in through here. Watch how pronounced these are as these explode out through here. Absolutely insane stuff with this, guys, that we're dealing with. So here's one more look at it. I'm going to zoom out, get a more zoomed out look at what's going on with this system in particular. Again, we can see that this is being pulsed through the area. Another thing to look at is look at kind of behind these clouds up into Canada. Right in here, look at these trailing perpendicular to this back level, this back edge. We have perpendicular clouds here. This is indicative of magnetization going on. It's like a magnet, guys. These are being attracted to the back edge of this. It's leaving behind a residue in the clouds, which is absolutely phenomenal. And you can see it here at the beginning of the loop. Look at these leave behind this residue of these clouds that are still trailing. This is not normal stuff. None of this is normal stuff. And the last thing I want to close with is this is what radio waves look like, guys. And you know how similar do some of these look. Radio waves are microwaves, but this is what you're looking at through here. And I'm trying to visually show you guys with irrefutable evidence and proof that everything we've discussed today are microwaves. This is how these behave as radio waves. They're pulsations, and these clouds, they operate in the same nature here, especially across Wisconsin and Lake Superior. Take a look, especially how these move. The nature of these, how they don't move. They have a medium passed through them. And that's why you get these pulsated frequencies here, like the radio wave example that I'm trying to show you guys here. Here's another thing I want to show you guys as well, with it being applied to tropical systems. Here's a look at Tropical Storm Christy. This is over the Pacific Ocean. Now, this is just a wandering tropical system that's not going to impact any land, fortunately. That doesn't matter, guys. Just because we have a Pacific hurricane, this eventually developed into a major hurricane, but my point being with this is these are experiment storms. So the military, they will go out here and they will build these storms. They'll play around with them, and this is an experiment where they're testing these. So this is Tropical Storm Christy on October 26th. It's out in the Pacific Ocean, and my point is I want us to look at the southwest flank of this system. That's where you're going to see the most pronounced pulsation occurring with this. You have a You have a fed channel occurring right here. This is your fed channel into this hurricane. This is being drawn up this way, so everything is being fed into this hurricane right here. The center of circulation is sitting about right here. And then on this northwest periphery, this is where you can see the most pronounced and obvious microwaving. You already see it right here. Look at this cloud right here. You see how these are wrapping like this? The same banding, the piano keys. That's the new term. I like that. I think I'm going to use that as well. I haven't really called these piano keys. I've been calling them more so fish gills, but they look like piano keys. Here it is, wave by wave or frame by frame. Look what's going on. Again, look at the western flank, southwest flank of this hurricane. You can see there's obvious pulses that are being brought down from the northern side of this, and they're wrapping into this. And just for visual intents and purposes here, here it is again, slowed down a little bit more. We're looking in particular through here. This is where the most obvious microwaving is occurring. This is not a natural hurricane. They built this thing out here, out in the Pacific. And let's zoom out even more. I'm trying to show you guys the scale into which this is being done. Here it is all the way out here. Notice there's a lack of air or lack of clouds right here. Here's where you're feeding this in. Everything's being drawn up through this area and here. Here is your microwaved area on the back side is right through here. And just to close things off, again, here's a way zoomed in look at where we're looking at that southwest flank of Tropical Storm Christy, where these channels are being pulsed through here. Looks exactly like radio waves and microwaves. And I sped it way up so you can see that. And then again, guys, I'll let the loop do the speaking here. That's about all I have for this presentation on stratospheric aerosol injections, aka chemtrails or persistent contrails, whatever you want to call them. These have nefarious purposes for intents of putting pollutants into the atmosphere. They block out sunlight reaching the surface, and it's a detriment to our health as human beings. And it's all being carried out right in front of you guys. And again, last thing I want to close with is how much time do you spend outside? How aware are you of your surroundings? Are you being regurgitated information that they're just persistent contrails because that's what you've been told? Or have you actually come to these conclusions yourself? Again, I'm an atmospheric scientist. It's my goal to show these things to you guys. I have no business in wanting to do this. I've said countless times over and over again, this is a moral conflict. It's very upsetting stuff. I don't want to be spending my time doing this. I want to enjoy my life as a meteorologist, helping people out, and this is the best way right now that this can be achieved. It is showing you guys what is going on. And until we do something about this, they're going to continue to get away with continuing to spray these into the atmosphere, manipulate our weather, damage your livelihood and your health at the same time. So I can't stress, guys, this is very serious stuff. I've got nothing to lose in showing this to you guys. And if you don't think this is occurring or you're skeptical about this, I really don't care. That's your problem. I've done all I could. You can only lead the horse to the water, but you can't force it to drink the water, guys. So stay tuned for more updates. Appreciate you guys watching this. It's fun to make these as well at the same time and try to take this out. You know, human species is very resilient. We have many awesome people out there that are also discussing some of this totally unpromoted. Check out some other stuff at geoengineeringwatch.org. It's work done by Dane Wigington. He's well-versed in this. He's done a lot more extensive research that looks at what they're spraying in the skies. He's got proof of air sampling that these are being sprayed up into the atmosphere. So this is not just speculation. This is action. This is what is happening now. Thanks again, guys. I hope you all stay safe out there, and God bless.